Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. It's just me today. It's Chris. I'm just doing my final team reveal. Ben will be doing his obviously shortly. Figured we'd get you this out on Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning. So you've got about 24 hours, 48 hours to digest it before the season starts on Thursday night. Couple of things. So there have been some rookie announcements. So we've already heard from GWS that they'll be playing Matt Flynn in the ruck, and Tanner Bruin is also debuting. We've also got some Sydney announcements as well with Logan McDonald, Braden Campbell, and also Errol Golden. I don't think that's how you pronounce his name. Are all debuting. We've also had Oliver Henry debuting as well. So we will find out more information on those guys. The one not to be worried about, guys, is Chad Warner. Obviously, he debuted last season, didn't score very well. So if you are waiting for that as part of the City announcement, you're probably not going to get it, unfortunately. But I do think that he will start round one, so just one to consider. Now, I suppose we'll get into our teams. Now, of course, this will change depending on rookies, but this is pretty much the final structure that I'm going with and the final team that I would like to ideally have, given the rookies that seem to be presenting at the moment and the information that we know. I will go through it. It is slightly different to my team that I posted a couple of weeks ago, but the premise still remains. In the back six, I'm going deep in structure. I've got 5 premium defenders, and that is Jake Lloyd, Rory Laird, Jaden Short, Luke McDonald, and I've gone with Sam Doherty at D5, with Highmore on the bench. And I've got Kaczynski at D7 with Aiden Fife stuck there at D8 as my loophole. He also allows me, obviously, to access the midfield with Jordan Clark that I have there. So if, for example, Highmore or Kaczynski don't play for whatever reason or get dropped unexpectedly, I can also swing back Clark there into that spot. So it adds me a little bit of layer of security, whilst also allowing me to have a loophole that I can switch into M11 at any point in time. Now, I have gone through the picks. Look, the ones I'd love that I just don't have is Ridley and Daniel. I think that those guys are very good picks that I would like to squeeze in here. I just don't have the cash, really, to be fair. I've gone with Short over Ridley and McDonald, of course, as well in that bunch. Really, to access some extra funds, I think Doherty is the one that I'm probably banking on as more of the hopeful, rather than guaranteed going to be top 6. I think that with Saad obviously coming through into that defence, it's another guy that they'll probably put more attention into as opposed to Doherty, which frees him up. So I really think that Dockers could go back to his premium scoring of a few years ago. Not to say he's going to be number 1. I think he's going to be around that sort of top 6 defender ranks. Within a few points, and at his price, it just allows me a little bit more flexibility further into the depth of my team, which I will shortly go through. So moving on to the midfield, this is where it gets a little bit tricky and dicey, and structure is a little bit skewed. And the reason for that is there's a lot of mid forwards and multi-positional players in my midfield that I can switch around. So whilst it looks like I'm shallow, it's actually just like any other midfield. I could, move guys around and make it 5 deep in the midfield if I really like. The same premise, the same guys are going to be on the field. But I've got Lachie Neale obviously locked away, and Jack Macrae. I think they're going to be 1 and 2 quite easily. I think by potentially 5 to 10 points the next run of guys. But I think that they're the ones that are going to very much be in that mix. I've also got Taranto as the guy that I want to hopefully get me to an M8. Now, do I think that Taranto is going to average 112 and be a guaranteed top 8 midfielder? Absolutely not. He's just cheap enough that he'll get me around the mark. I think he's probably going to be somewhere between 105 to 110. And at his price, there's really no one else that's going to be able to offer me that value. I see, for what it's worth, I see someone like Rowell is averaging around about the same as Taranto, but for 50k cheaper, why not just go Taranto? I do think that he's probably the, if not the number 1, the number 2 CBA midfielder for them this year. Hopper being the other one that has that potential. But yeah, I really like Taranto as a pick. Unfortunately, his SC ratio to DT is not great, so I just really hope that he can up his kicking, because he's definitely a mark and kick type player that can also be a stoppage player. So I don't mind Taranto. Jai Caldwell's there at M4. Now that could be Patrick Dangerfield if I just want to throw Danger in there. But the reason why I went with Dockers instead of Ridley is that I can spend that little bit extra money going from someone like a Heppel up to a Caldwell. And Caldwell I like over a Tom Green for around about the same price because there's a potential, and it's a slim one, but there's a potential that Jai Caldwell could be a forward keeper. And so for that reason, I wanted him over any other mid-pricer because there's a potential of not having to trade him out. So if we move on to M5, I've got Jordan Clark there at the moment. So this is where it obviously starts to get a little thin. Again, I could put Rory Laird in there if you really wanted to play it that way. It doesn't really matter where he's on my field, but Jordan Clark is there. He's also been announced to to play round one, and Chris Scott came out and has already announced that he will be playing, so that's a really good sign for his job security. And then we go with the rookies, of course. So Tom Powell, I think, is a must start. Errol Golden's already been named. Scott, I really, really like. His job security firmed up with the injury to Hayden Crozier. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. So off that half back line, and he scored, I think, in the 70s, I think 79 in the Amy game. I think is an option you can take on field for 102k as a mid forward. I'm taking him there. On the bench, I've got Eli Smith, Tyler Brockman, and Connor Downey. I think Brockman and Downey speak for themselves. Brockman and Cozzy have pretty much already been named by the coach. Downey's one of those questionable ones. I think his role's good, and I think they needed Downey in that team, and he played well in the Amy game, even though his score didn't reflect it. So I do think he plays, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Eli Smith, there hasn't been enough chatter about Eli Smith. So with Rayner going down, there was huge talk before the Amy game about Eli Smith and his potential in the side and how well he's been going in the preseason, how they love him down there, but it's obviously very tight for midfield spots. Then the team sheets come out in the Amy game, and he wasn't listed as one of the 26 players. Now, my thoughts on that are that he's not listed there because they want him to play midfield. He's not going to play as a forward pocket player in this team. He's going to be playing wing and midfield. Now, with Rayner going down, that does free up midfield rotations through that side. So there's every chance someone like Eli Smith does come into calculations for round one and comes out of nowhere. I currently have him there. That can be someone else. There's other rookies that I can grab, but I would prefer that to be Eli Smith. And I think that he's even going to be a fieldable option if he comes through. Ruck line's pretty basic for me. Gawn, Grundy, Flynn, don't mess with it. It's just going to be like how it is. I can't see any problems with that. And then moving into the forward line. So Danger is my non-negotiable. Dunkley I've moved on since the Amy game. I think that regardless, like his low is probably going to be 95 at the absolute worst, but his high is like 120. Like if he gets those mid rotations, he can explode, and we've all seen it happen before. So the risk is very, very low. You pay a little bit more for him to make sure of it, but I think he might be worth it. Then I've got Zeeble, obviously, at F3. Again, his role was very good, but I think it might change once Robbie Tarrant comes back into that defence, and he'll free him up to be to play on a more medium-sized forward in the future. Manimpi, again, great role in the Amy game. Only played half a game, is a little bit managed, but he'll be fine. Scored 39 in just under half a game. And then, of course, Braden Campbell and Chad Warner I've got on field as well, who proved himself very, very well in the Amy series. On the bench, I move over and I've gone with Fullerton and Rowe. Rowe's a no-brainer. I think he'll make some good cash from the bench, and that has that bench option there. Fullerton's the one I've gone with there because I think he gets probably 2 to 3 price rises before McStay comes back into that team, and he's got a chance to solidify his role. So we'll have a look at Fullerton, and also the worst case scenario, I can switch him into the ruck when into R3 when Flynn's being traded out to during the season. So I do want a ruck forward there. It's going to be him or Tracy. Tracy is suspended for 3 games, but they have appealed, so we'll see how that pans out. The only reason why I'd go Tracy over Fullerton is if I needed the extra cash, and at this stage I don't, so I'm happy going with Fullerton. Just another thing that I'd like to highlight with my defence before we get out of here. So Aiden Fife, obviously on the bench there. It allows me to do two things. First of all, I can swing Clark back there into that defence if I need to for the rookies. It also allows me to loophole early those two rookies. So Cozzy actually plays before Highmore this weekend. So I'm able to have a look at Cozzy, and if he kicks a bag again, I can actually swing him on field with Fife jumping on board. So I do find that valuable considering the scoring power of Cozzy. He's going to be one of those guys that is either going to hit 80 or he's going to hit 20. So I definitely don't want to be playing him on field. I like Highmore as an on-field option, but I'm completely happy. If I get a 70 from Cozzy, I'll just switch that on. I'm completely happy with that. So that's one thing that I've looked at there. And it also allows me to do the same in midfield. If I'm feeling that I'm comfortable with the setup I've got behind the ball, I can move Fife into the midfield and then try and play a little bit of rookie roulette, trying to guess who's going to be the best to loophole that week. Gold Coast play a lot of late games, which makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, it's going to be good. Just before we go, in terms of vice captain and captain options for me, I'm 100% locking in vice captain on McRae, captain Gawn. I think that's a no-brainer selection this week. The reason why I'm not going Grundy is purely the unknown about the ruck contests. Also, Steph Martin can be a little bit negating in terms of scoring power. So if they play Martin and English through there, just want to see how that goes before locking in a VC on him. And realistically, I think Grundy probably goes 130, and I don't want to take a 130 this week for captain because of Gawn's opponents. So Gawn's playing Freo this week. Sean Darcy, unlikely to play. If he does play, he's going to be playing forward likely with Meek as the number one ruck, and they're going to be rotating through, maybe doing a 50-50 split. So I don't think that they're going to be able to contain Gawn at all. I think he's going to go absolutely ham. So what I'm looking for from McRae is probably a 140 plus to even get me interested in a captaincy. That will change week to week. General rule of thumb, of course, is 130 and above is going to be fine. But I think this week you're going to want a 140. Collingwood don't tag their mids. McRae could go off the chain. So I'm looking at that as my VC option and Gawn as my captain option. That's it. I hope you like my team. It's the other consideration with structure is the amount of premiums that you have. So for this, I would consider it. If you consider Taranto a premium as well, which I do, that's 12 premiums plus Caldwell. I wouldn't consider Caldwell a keeper at this stage, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I do. I think it's important to try and go for that 12 mark. The other option is you could drop down a Lloyd or you can drop down a Neil and then upgrade that Taranto. But realistically, I'm looking at getting those certified guns that are going to be number one or number two in their position to take me through. And I think that the guys like Lloyd, guys like Neil, guys like Danger, Gawn and Grundy, they're non-negotiables for me. They're still going to be arguably the number one, and it's very unlikely that anyone's going to be challenging them for that. And by a considerable margin, I consider these guys to be at least 5 to 10 points per game better than the next available prospect. Otherwise, I would just go and try the next available. That's me. I hope you like my team. I hope you have a great time. Good luck with your rookies over the weekend. Remember, there is a rolling lockout. You can make trades of these rookies, but be careful with it. Remember, you can't trade after a certain game, etc. You can only trade to future games. And of course, we do have those 24-hour notice periods between rookie announcements. Unfortunately, that sucks. Also, a little quick note on the concussion rule, if that does come in, it is going to suck for SC. I hope that the Supercoach gods will be able to make up some sort of rule regarding activated concussion subs, because that is going to play havoc with our prices and trying to generate cash from our rookies. So, not fun, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, thanks very much, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.